Welcome to a very special animal reveal, the zebra shark. I will play the full video first because the narration is just absolutely gorgeous by Frontier, and we have to talk about a couple of things I noticed in the footage and also a first little tiny bit of criticism, but I'll get to that. Let's first of all roll the video and then we're gonna keep on talking.
Meet the indo-pacific leopard shark, also known as the zebra shark. This calm and graceful animal will truly have your guests in awe. Their long tails and sleek spotted bodies make them one of the most recognizable sharks. However, when they are young, they have bold, zebra-like stripes before growing into their spotted patterns. These curious sharks like to explore every nook and cranny of their underwater world. Open spaces allow them to glide effortlessly, while soft sand gives them comfortable places to rest. Leopard sharks are typically active at night, so they have various enrichment items to keep them happy. Their gentle nature makes them a favorite for mixed species environments, giving your guests a chance to see them coexist with rays and other fish. These remarkable sharks will make an unforgettable addition to your aquariums.
Okay, here we are. You've seen the full video, you've seen the beautiful narration by Frontier. I must say, before we go into the video really, that I'm mega impressed by the quality of the videos they have put out so far. The narration, the music, the background music, the cutting, everything is spot on. Hey, I mean, you're looking at it. Sorry, pun intended. But no, just like really big props to whoever is doing that. Like every single bit feels so good, so well done. I love listening to that. It's so beautifully narrated, and there's like a subtlety in the music they are choosing. And even my wife, I've shown some of the stuff to my wife, and she's like very into music, doing music herself, very good singer and so on. So she's got a bit of a different ear, you know, listening to things like that. And even she was like, oh man, it's like they do a great job at varying music, pacing, stuff like that, to match the area we are in. Like when aquatic video has a completely different sound setting versus aviary stuff versus the normal terrestrial habitat stuff. And I didn't really notice, like, I'm like, you know, that's fitting music, but she's like, no, I like subtleties in the sound that make the song more muffled or more like, you know, hallway like for like these underwater stuff, while the other stuff for the aviaries, and we may notice that in the next upcoming stuff, which is focused on the aviary stuff, that it has a lot more less weight to it. It's almost like floating, flying, which makes sense. I just wanted to quickly get into that because I found that very interesting when she noticed that. But there's a lot more I noticed, so let's jump into it from the very beginning. So first things first, I just want to reinforce how every single time I open a new video, I'm like shocked by how it's looking. But what I'm also very interested in is like this habitat we're looking at over here seems to be the new kind of showcase thing. We talked about that already last week with or was it the week before? Even I forgot, the black-tip reef shark. This time around, we do see the ocean sunfish, the what you have over here, like the ray, the hawksbill, and seemingly, obviously, the zebra shark in here, which is pretty interesting that they can all coexist in one huge aquarium. And the same thing is about the roof. I'm more and more sure that this is from the roofing tool and not a man-made structure. Like, obviously, it's man-made, but like handcrafted by a employee of Frontier. So, getting into the video. As I said, there's a couple of things I noticed. So I think there is a fair bit of difference here between the different foliage stuff. There is a article that went online at the same time today, and the article itself is also featuring a lot of these infos, and they talk a lot more about the ocean floor or the verticality of the habitat you can build, so that the floor plays a role. And it seems like there is more than just the option to put terrain in. It almost feels like there is a certain need for certain terrain terrain types, and by that I mean really from the terrain tool, you need to have certain things like sand, for example, on the ground. We'll get to that in a minute. You've seen that in this video. And the same goes for nature. I can really just think about it, but I do think it is the way it is, that these type of weeds over here, for example, they have been painted with the nature brush, for example, whilst other things might actually be individual scenery / nature pieces you put down, so that you can actually use that brush also underwater, which is kind of cool that it does actively react to that. So we do then get our first little glimpse on the indo-pacific leopard shark, which is also called the zebra shark. So we learned that already today. We get a couple of different color variants and skin variants, including, I believe it's going to be an albino one. We do see obviously a whole bunch of varying skulls in the background, which has some sardines in and all these. I got to learn all these names though, but yeah, you get the point. And we get a very gentle look at it, and by gentle I mean looking how they gently float through the water, but also they do explain to us that they have a certain explorative nature, going to have a look in every single corner of your habitat. And in various articles we already learned about window surfing, which kind of describes a behavior of fish in aquariums, that they do search certain routes through a habitat to, you know, get some interesting interactions also with people in the tunnels and stuff like that, which they call window surfing, to make the most of each habitat's potential routes to be going. So that is very interesting indeed. I will not go through the article, by the way, in detail. That is just like not for a video. I highly recommend reading all these articles, because they are fantastically done, very informative, and I can just recommend getting into these. Now, what we do also see is some juveniles over here, and I do have a bit of a... I talked about that in one of the previous videos when it was about I think it was the saltwater crocodile. I thought that we saw a second kind of age stage, but that was obviously the female one. I should have known that, but the female saltwater crocodile is significantly smaller than the male one is, so that was the one I was guessing in the background. Pretty much sure that was. So forever since then we haven't seen any other juvenile just like as it is in Planet Zoo 1, and to be honest, at the point we are at right now, I'm rather sure that we're not going to see any differences to the first game in terms of, let's say, for example, dynamic life stages like Prehistoric Kingdom has, for example. And to be honest, I'm fine with that. That is not the criticism I have for today's video. That is definitely not the thing. I mean, it would have been nice, you know, but it's not, like, for me personally, it's not really deal breaking. I really thought about the whole time, like, what would that add to my game's experience? I can still, like I said last time around, I can still see a kind of teenage stage would be interesting to have for certain type of animals, you know, that are a little bit more stronger than juveniles were, but like from its playfulness and from the difference that like a stage would need to make, I don't see where the biggest difference would be between the juvenile and obviously the adult then in a way. I would find it more interesting though that the elderlies show more of a pattern of lesser movement and stuff, and you could still do that with the very same model and just give the animal a bit of a lesser radius that they move in and speed or whatnot. So it could actually be, you know, dealt with the values in. So for me personally, that's not a big deal. But I just want to say that because we do see the juveniles over here that give them their characteristic stripes. I guess one of the things, you know, that makes them being called zebra sharks as well. But then also over time growing into their full grown-up stage, they do lose these stripes and end up with this spotted, you know, wonderful pattern they come with. And then over here, this is the one I meant, it's either leucistic or albino over here, and this is where I meant this. It seems like that there is a certain need for sandy grounds, because as you can tell, this behavior over here is a first. We haven't seen that, and it does actually look like as if they're taking like a sand bath down there on the ground, which if it isn't like a null one or everything, it seems not to be an enrichment item. It seems to be something that they're doing just with the environment. And in all honesty, if that's a thing for the aquatics, I hope that this is a behavior we can also see with terrestrial animals that originally would need a enrichment item for that, because we obviously had these kind of mud bath and sun bath and stuff like that. You know, we know that we will be able to paint down certain soil and mud areas in the game, so I do hope that these muddy areas will also equal as, for example, mud bath for certain animals. Find that very interesting. That was something I didn't expect to happen in that sense, but I really like to see that. I really like this, and I really do like to see this nighttime shot here because of the enrichment items we can see and some food stuff over here. We do see them also resting on the ground, which equals for their sleeping. They don't necessarily sleep fully like other animals do, but they do rest on the ocean floor, so also make sure that you do provide them with the needed space on the ground. I think this is a certain, you know, it's not difficulty, but it's a challenge for the setup of your aquatic habitats. You will need to grant them spaces for that, I'm assuming, and if you don't, and if you know, flop in way too many rocks and items, they don't find an area to rest and hence will be more stressed, fatigue and whatnot. Here you can see another leopard shark using one of the brand new underwater enrichment pieces. Gotta say, and this is where I'm just going to leave that play for a second, that's something I wanted to talk about for a while. I love the weighting and pacing of the movements. It seems really like Frontier has incredibly nailed the way physics feel underwater with these animals, and this all being hand animated and stuff is kind of incredible. But there is one thing that just sets me, like, it upsets me a little bit in this footage, and I can assure you that this is something I have feedbacked already with Planet Coaster 2. I was hoping that I will not have to do that again with Planet Zoo 2. And in the recent footage we've seen, I was fearing this already, and unfortunately this footage over here is giving me the confirmation. If you have the same feeling like me, that it kind of looks awesome, but it looks super wrong at the same time, that is because we're missing out with any shadows in here. And if you look at the footage, something looks very odd. And specifically, these two people over here are a very good example of what I'm saying. Like, look at the people. It looks all very flat indeed because there's no shadow. And we have the same issue in Planet Coaster 2 as well. Despite the fact we have global illumination and ray tracing, which looks phenomenal with the, well, global light source, and these two being the moon or the sun. However, if you're fully indoors, where the main, like the global light source cannot impact your items, it'll not going to create a shadow. And that is, in certain areas, not too much of a big deal, but once you create such a incredible, like, space over here, at a certain point it becomes obvious that there is something terribly missing. So if you look at this image over here, how many shadows you would need to paint in, and it would immediately look a lot better. So for example, you'd have over here next to that column would be a bit of shade in here, but also these people would cast shadows here to the right hand side. These people would have them to the left hand side, these ones more smaller ones, but also inside of the aquarium you would also have a lot more shade going around certain areas, and it would just increase the amount of, you know, or actually not the amount, but it would just make the whole thing look so good. If you look here to the right hand side in the background, this is where it all is less obvious, because just kind of the distance makes it less kind of obvious, but it still is kind of there by not being there. You know, there's no shadow. This is what's missing in here. And I'm kind of like, you know, I thought it's not going to be that big of a deal, but if you want to see a comparison, have a look at Jurassic World Evolution 2, because this game actually has this in-game lighting. If I think of it, I will include an image of an indoor space in Jurassic World Evolution 2 now, so you have the comparison. And it's such a it's a day and night difference. It's a difference day and night, and it's Cobra engine, it's the same engine, so they seem to have the capability. I hope it's maybe down to optimization reasons or whatnot, and hopefully we'll get the option in the future, because the game could look even so much more stellar, like it does look with the global light source and obviously the global illumination in daytime. But especially on this shot over here, it gets even more obvious, unfortunately, and I would love to see this being added in the future to both Planet games that we currently have, going for its successor version, so Planet Zoo 2, but also Planet Coaster 2. Okay, so that should be it from my side. This has been the reveal of the, what is that, the official name, the Indo-Pacific leopard shark, or the zebra shark. That was the mystery animal. I think I haven't said that, but obviously I'm incredibly happy to have this animal in the game. It's such a great animal to have for a beautiful aquarium. Kind of interesting to how many, you know, like species it can share the habitat with. But yeah, as I said, I'm in general very, very hyped, looking forward to that. But you know, you have to keep certain things interesting. And by the way, by the shadow, you can see this in here. This seems to have daytime, and now you have this incredible shadow going down, you know, beneath the animal, and you can see this at daytime. How much of a difference it makes when the daylight comes in and creates all this different depth by adding these shadows. As you can see everywhere over here, what a kind of impact that has. And if you then go over to the nighttime, you can see immediately how that is missing. So yeah, that is, and by missing, I'm obviously aware that there is no certain light source above the shark right now, which would, you know, need to create a shadow down here, don't get me wrong, but there is nothing, there's like no shadow at all in all of this area over here being casted. And yeah, well, you know, enough of that. It's just a beautiful animal we'll get in the game. I cannot wait. It's going to be so good. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you do share my hype, but also you may share the same kind of worry I have about the light source. Well, that's my question. Have you noticed that before? Is that something that you are interested in, or is it something where you're like, what the hell are you talking about? It's looking beautiful, don't get me, don't annoy me with these kind of things, you know, whatever. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much as always for watching. Don't forget to hype the video, like the video, whatnot, and I'm gonna talk you in the next one. Until then, have a good time and bye.